we're back to, you did novitiate. What was that
Okay.
like for you, novitiate? Was novitiate enjoyable? I mean, aside from all
Yes,
the stuff.
yeah, generally speaking it was. I mean, why do you go to a novitiate? In order, to learn, to deepen your spirituality and your connection with Christ. So that certainly can happen if you wanted to, and you can, it's an interior kind of thing, so you immerse yourself as much as I suppose you can and will. Now, it has its difficulties. I mean, I alluded to one there, the age differences,
Sure.
would be something. And then you participate in everything. Now, I was never an athlete in that sense of the word. I could manage touch football and, street ball, stuff like that. But these guys, particularly the postulants who had been there for 3 years, these were, whiz-bang, most of them anyway. So I was right fielder all the time. I could have a retreat out where I was, But so that was a little bit of a challenge to have to go along with it.
I wouldn't even have known all the sports, that there was a lot of sports involved. That's
Right.
cool.
Oh yeah, I mean there was handball, and they certainly played baseball and football. Hockey was a big thing
Ice hockey,
because
Wow.
yeah, we had a lot of Newfoundlanders would come down because we were all one big province, including Newfoundland. And these fellas knew how to play hockey and how to play it real dirty too. Yeah. So.
I think that's the only way hockey gets played.
Yeah. And of course, it's learning to acclimate yourself to group activities and group living, and that's not necessarily an easy thing. It can be a little bit of a chore. But if you realize why you're there, and you were free to go at any time.
And were you able to use that time the way you say one could use it? Was it a good time for you?
Yes, it was a very good time for me. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was like the foundation of a new life, just like the way your mother helps you grow and nurtures you, etc. That foundation kind of helps throughout your entire adolescent life and into your manhood. Well, this was the religious manhood, so to speak, and I found it very nurturing.
And of course, you had a good novice master.
And we had an excellent novice master.
Who was that?
A man by the name of Brother Ambrose Kelly, an older man, an Irishman, but a very understanding person. He was not everything by the book, yet the book was important. But he had a very human and understanding approach.
That's nice.
And he had a tough time because he was dealing here with 30 youngsters, and he was in his late 50s, I'd say. Yeah, and not too good on his feet. But he was dealing with, and they ranged in age. Now the youngest there was Steve O'Keefe, and he was probably about 16, 17.
Yeah.
And here, well, there was one fellow older than myself, Chris Graves. He must have been about 28, and I was about 27, yeah. So it was a tough time, but he handled it beautifully, Parents would come up and visit us, and they were all very impressed by Ambrose Kelly. He's the fatherly type,
And the name is familiar. Maybe I've heard of him.
Well, Donald may have talked about him, because he liked him very, very much.
You go in a class of 32. How many stay the year?
I think we probably lost about 7 people, maybe 6 people. Not too many, But then that period of training continues into a scholasticate if you haven't had the education, a college education, and then into annual vows that you go in and be taken for 7 years before you have to take permanent vows. There's where you have a good deal of people who are departing.
Every year that
you
do
make annual vows
for
for
7
7 years, right? And at the end of the year, you can leave, or the congregation can ask you to leave because you don't show the proper signs, etc. So I would say by the time we got to finals, we had lost, pretty close to maybe half the group was gone by that time.
So the 16 that are left, Do you all keep track of each other
Oh,
throughout
yes.
the years?
Well, actually, how many are left now of your group?
There are only 7 now.
So,
There are only 7 left.
and you're living with one?
I'm living with 3.
Okay, 3.
Yeah, 3. Pat Morgan, who you're
Right.
going to see, is in the same group, and Fran Furyk
Oh, Fran, yes. Of course.
and myself, so there's 3 of us here,
Right.
you know. And then I'm almost ready to put Phil Considine into it because he's up here so often, you
And he
know.
just celebrated his?
His 75th
75th
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah, 75th birthday, you know. So, you know, when you say now, after 55 years, we're good by 7. 7 of us are left out of 32 that receive the habit, you know, which is about what, 1/20th, or 1/5 rather, something around that, you know. Yeah.
Wow, and all those years, brothers were spread out around the world, or most of the year in North America?
Well, most of us would be in North America because the province was a North American province,
Oh, so you stay
When we entered,
Did you
okay.
stay that west?
and most of them stay in there. Now, there'd be an exception to it if a person had some very special talents that could be used more effectively somewhere else in the world. Maybe go over to Rome for studies in Rome or something like that, you know. But most of the time, you're in the same province. And you could be sent anywhere. And I remember, you know, we could go up to Newfoundland, we could go out to Hawaii, you know. So.
Or missionary.
Oh, that's
missionary
right.
territory
See,
as
at
well.
that time, in the beginning, we didn't have
You
it
didn't
as
have that. That
missionary.
didn't come in really till the early
The
50s.
60s and the early 60s.
Because I know in Africa,
right,
we did Africa around 53 or something like that.
That's about right, about 53. And then, of course, in our own area, we opened up Peru in 68. So foreign missions were certainly a part of many of our lives since the 60s, let's say.
So you graduate from West Park. Where do you go from there?
Where did I go personally?
Mm-hmm.
After I finished the novitiate, I didn't have any more studies to do because I had my college degree. In fact, I had started on a master's degree, so they wanted me to continue studies. Another reason for it was, as one of the benefits of being in service, there was the GI Bill of Rights. And I don't think of rights, just the GI Bill. And that paid for your college education. So I was able to get a...
All the GIs?
Sure.
To go to college? That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. And I was eligible, my eligibility took me through two master's degrees and the start of a PhD.
What were they in?
Economics.
All 3?
No, economics was the first one. Then I got one in administration, educational administration. And the PhD would have been in economics if I had finished it, but I didn't finish it. Yeah.
Why didn't you finish it?
I suppose primarily because I became a principal, and it took up a lot of my time, and I just stopped it, and I said, well, I don't know whether I especially need it, because you don't need a PhD to be a high school principal. And but I said, well, I'll get a few credits to it. Maybe they'll consider me for college someday.
I don't mean to jump ahead, but where were you principal?
I was principal first at Monsignor Farrell High School.
In Staten Island?
Staten Island,
My
right.
nephew just graduated from
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
he won the Catholic championships in his weight division wrestling.
In wrestling,
Yeah,
how
for the
about
state.
that? Well, when I went over there as principal, it was just starting. It's an archdiocesan school. It is owned by our congregation. And it was a real challenge because of the different authorities that were involved in keeping everybody kind of happy and working together. So we had 2 principals. We had a priest principal and a brother principal. And the priest principal was primarily involved with the finances and the public relations, and the brother principal was involved with the faculty, students, and the academic program.